So it's my great pleasure to join each of you in recognizing my old friend, Wale Adeosun. Wale, as we just heard of the various nationalities, he's the Nigerian, and he's a classic overperforming Nigerian, but one who never forgot where he came from. So he was born in Nigeria, raised in Nigeria, and then came here to the United States for his undergraduate degree as well as for his MBA, and then he stayed and he excelled here. So Wale was managing director for investments at the MacArthur Foundation, a $10 billion foundation. Wale was the chief investment officer at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, overseeing $1 billion. And then Wale, most recently, was chairman of the Advisory Council for New York State Common, the $180 billion pension fund here in New York State. And that said, as long as I've known Wale over many years, the one consistent theme that he has always come back to, that always was interspersed with our conversations, was Africa. He kept talking about, Africa is an amazing place to invest. It's a place where a lot of capital here in the West ought to be looking. And he's always had that view. When others were skeptical, Wale would just go back to the data and focus people on why Africa was a great place. He invested in Africa when he was at MacArthur, he invested in Africa when he was RPI, and he always returned great returns for capital that otherwise would not have even thought about Africa. So he's been a real missionary for Africa for as long as I've known Wale. 5 years ago, Wale founded Kuramo Capital, and he, in so doing, basically voted with his career. He voted with his livelihood that Africa was a place that he could convince the major guardians of funds in this country, multi-billion-dollar endowments, multi-billion-dollar foundations, to bring their capital to Africa. Why does this matter? It matters because bringing private capital to Africa is one of the most powerful ways to enable and to drive economic development and good governance. In this moment that we're sitting here with Baton Rouge, with St. Paul's, with with Dallas, the one thing that at least I know I'm tremendously aware of is the consequences of underinvestment and of poor government policies over too many generations. And what Wale is doing is he's leaning against this historical tide, and he's doing it across Africa, and he's doing it connecting America through its endowments and foundations to Africa. He's basically demystifying the continent for some of the largest custodians of capital in this country. He's investing his energy and his resources as chairman of the Nigeria Higher Education Foundation, so bringing in the educational side, the non-for-profit side. And then he's also having a real influence on government policy. He sits on President Obama's advisory council for investing in Africa, for doing business in Africa. He sits on the Sub-Saharan board or committee at the Export-Import Bank. So in so many ways, Wale is really what I'll call a man of all seasons. He's a commercial leader, and he's having a real impact through his commercial activities. He's a not-for-profit leader in education, bringing real resources and focus to education on the continent. And at the same time, he's a policy leader influencing the U.S. government, both at the presidential level as well as the Export-Import Bank level. So, with that, I would first, again, just commend Wale as a real leader across the continent and here. And I would invite everybody to watch the following video.
Wale's life and career has been a testament to what can be accomplished when a brilliant mind and an inspired vision is put to the service of others. After graduating from Cole College and the Allen School of Business at Washington University in St. Louis, Wale set out to use his considerable talents to serve and lead a variety of high-profile organizations and institutions in both the U.S. and Africa, including serving as the managing director at the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation and as chair of the Investment Advisory Committee for the $180 billion New York State Common Retirement Fund. Wale currently serves as a member of President Obama's Advisory Council on Doing Business in Africa, as a trustee for Cole College, and as chairman of the Nigeria Higher Education Foundation. The crowning achievement in his roll call of service and leadership is Kuramo Capital Management and the $300 million Africa Opportunity Funds. Kuramo, which Wale founded and where he currently serves as Chief Investment Officer, focuses on researching and uncovering investment opportunities in sub-Saharan Africa and directing the necessary resources to bolster and grow these businesses to the mutual benefit of both the fund's strategic partners and the sub-Saharan African companies into which the fund invests. Over the last 5 years, Kuramo has committed over $150 million into 40 companies in 20 African countries and has provided access to growth and investment opportunities across the continent. More importantly, Wale, through Kuramo, has brought hope to a new generation of young African visionaries by providing access to capital, the one very thing that often prevents innovation and entrepreneurship. Kuramo ensures that the African dream is reachable to every young African who can aspire and dare to dream.
So Wale, if you would come join us on stage, we're very proud, again, to recognize you as a true leader on the continent.
Wow. You guys look really beautiful today. Thank you very much, Jide, for those really kind words and inspirational words. A few years ago, I was fortunate to be in an event that Bob Johnson, the first African-American billionaire and founder of BET, was interviewed. And the question was, what did it take for him to be successful? And his answer was, you can have the vision, but you need to have somebody that supports you unequivocally and backs you all the way. And for him, that person was John Malone. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with his story. For Kuramo Capital, our John Malone is Jide Zeitlin. I believe when the history of Kuramo Capital is written finally, there will be a significant role for Jide, and I'm so grateful like our paths crossed. So I thank you for all you've done for Kuramo Capital. Let me begin by thanking Face to Face Awards, Sandra and the board, for nominating Kuramo Capital and myself for this leadership award. I'm very honored to be amongst some of really an eclectic and very fascinating group. Wycliffe, Marcus, Vanessa, Rosa is over there. It's just an esteemed group of really honorees. And I'm so glad to accept this award on behalf of all of my partners and colleagues at Kuramo Capital. We at Kuramo Capital, we're very, very passionate about the continent. We truly believe that there are three things the continent really needs to move on to the next level, which is capital, education, and awareness. And Jide touched on all those three a little bit. For us at Kuramo Capital, what we're doing is really bringing capital back to the continent. we strongly believe that if we can teach people how to fish, we don't need to give them fish. They will do the work themselves. And the work we do at the Nigeria Higher Education Foundation is about preparing the next generation of Africans. And finally, really, the awareness part is what we do through the President's Advisory Council on doing business in Africa. We strongly believe that the more we talk the really positive stories of Africa, which is very similar to what the mission of Face to Face is, which is really celebrating the excellence of people from descendants from Africa. I think we'll all lower that risk perception for Africa. And in so doing, we'll lower the risk premium that's required. And in so doing, we will encourage more investors to come to the continent and invest and generate really attractive risk returns. I have been fortunate in my career and to start up Kuramo, and it's three people, really three groups. I would like to say thank you to for starting this up. First is my lovely wife and my life partner, Yvette. I met at Co-College. Just after I came to this country, she's been my advisor and counsel over the years. It's over 30-something years now, and counting. And my family and my boys, I have three wonderful boys. Two of them are in Lagos right now, Ladi and Lamide, but Dayo's here also. And then the last group is really my Kuramo family. I have my partners here, Kamal and Shaka sitting right here, and then the rest of the team over here. Without them, there's no way we can really do this. We at Kuramo, we strongly believe that what's about to happen on the continent is going to dwarf anything we've ever seen in our lifetime. What the next generation will do is going to be really, really significant. And so all we have to do at Kuramo is prepare the path for them. And along with Face to Face Awards, I think we will do a great job of preparing the path so that the next generation can be leaders when it comes to the continent overall. Thank you.